Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Office Pro TV. I'm your host, Justin Innocent, and we're continuing on with our Excel 2016 Essentials series, and we're going to be talking about number formats, and we're just going to give you an overview, a nice brief introduction. Well, when I say we, I'm not actually going to do much of the hard work. We have someone who's a way harder worker than I am. Miss Vaughn Smith, how are you doing today, Vaughn?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Justin?
I am doing fantastic as well. Now, number formats. It seems like a pretty innocuous, you're like, oh yeah, I got you. But I'm guessing because we're here, it's a little more involved than one would assume.
That is, yes. That is a yes, for sure. Yeah, because this is a part that can trip people up pretty frequently. And it's really easy to kind of get a little bit confused about what's going on here. So in our other episodes, we talked about formatting things like the font and the color and the background color and the borders. And so we're still going to be doing cell formatting. We're going to format it, but we're going to format specifically our numbers and really like what the cell content itself is associating itself with, the different categories of number formatting. So that's what we're going to concentrate on. We actually have a little mini series going on. We're going to have the next 4 episodes are going to be about number formats because, well, they are that important. And there's a lot to talk about in number formats. So that's what we're going to concentrate on, give you a nice little overview, get our feet wet, and then get into all the different categories of the number formats. I will go ahead and make a little disclaimer here. If you're watching this in succession and be like, like my hair might look different. Yeah, that's because I've actually come back and we're redoing these episodes because I wanted to talk more about it. And it's been a little bit of time. And actually, we just finished up our Excel for Mac series and kind of like the way I did number formats in that series a little bit better. So guess what? I'm coming back to you PC people and giving you a nice little refresh of it. You don't know it's a refresh because you don't know what the old one looks like either, so that's okay. But just wanted to throw that out there because I'm a little bit on the continuity of like, that person's hair looks different. Yeah, it does. So, and we have a different host than the previous episode too. So we've got our little team. It's kind of nice because we do come from Excel and really numbers in general from 2 different backgrounds, right? I'm more of a graphics person. I do use Excel a lot, but Justin, you're a numbers guy.
Yeah, my background is actually science and engineering and math, and I used Excel when I was a physics major, and then when I went to grad school, I did a little bit of engineering. Excel is great for collecting data, but I had different use cases for numbers than you did, or maybe even you did. A lot of times I've seen people use Excel just for simple counting or things of that nature, or maybe even accounting sheets. I actually have a little bit of experience there as well. We'll try not to talk about that as much. But there are number formats that I've used that, by and large, a lot of people have not, but hopefully we can provide some alternative perspectives that will allow you to see how useful number formatting can be.
And I'm glad you're here too because I probably couldn't pass a 5th grade math test anymore, but I got a math guy here, so he's going to keep me honest on some of this stuff. So we're going to have a lot of fun with our number formats, and why don't we go ahead and let's get this party started, okay? Why don't we jump down into my computer? I have a file that we're using called number formats new, and this is the file that we're going to be using throughout these episodes, so definitely follow along if you'd like to. And we've got some numbers in here, right? We've got some content on our sheet. I'll zoom in just a little bit so maybe you can see this. And the thing that I want to kind of first talk about when think about number formats is that when we format, we're trying to change the display of that particular information. Like changing the font to red. I want that to stand out a little bit more. Putting the borders around it and everything. So this is how I would like it to be displayed and formatted. Well, the same thing goes with numbers. And in these 2 columns that we have here, like the ones like in column B and then also in column D, and on the same rows, I gave a little space for that column C in the middle. These are the same numbers. Okay? So this number and this number is the same. Like, no, it's not. That's a date. Actually, it is. Okay. For example, this number 1.5689 right? That's the same as this number if we're applying the rules of rounding, right? If I only wanted to show this to, like, I don't want any decimal places to show, then that would be the same thing. The other biggest thing to start noticing about some of this stuff that we're going to be talking about is while we see this displayed this way as with all the decimal places, and this is just 2, it is actually inputted the same way as well. Another big concept to understand about like the raw data, what did I physically type into this cell versus how is it actually looking on the sheet? Okay, so same one, you just displayed it differently. So underlying data versus the paint we put on top of it.
And I think paint is very appropriate here. In my world, this is like the view layer. How am I viewing this information? I don't want to alter the underlying data because I may change how much information I have, or I may lose it, gain it, whatever it may be. Another way to think about it is these formats, this display format, if you have a nickname, if someone calls you by that nickname, you're underlying, like if someone called me Big J or something, right? I'm still Justin Dennison. That doesn't change the underlying person. It's just how I'm interacted with and how I'm viewed.
Is that one of your nicknames, Justin?
No, but we can go with it from now on if you want to. Big J, hey, let's go.
As soon as you said it, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to learn one of Justin's nicknames? Ooh, okay. So, yeah, so I have quite a few myself. So, yeah, I have quite a few. So that's perfect. And I'm really glad that you kind of said it in that way that we can kind of like identify it with. And if we get back into Excel, the biggest things you need to start looking at when you're dealing with any of your data, and especially with these number formats, is this area up here. This is our formula bar, okay? And so when you look at this, this is a place that we can see what is actually written in that cell. And while we see it here, oh, sorry, my mouse moved around, right there as 2, but look up at the formula bar. It says 1.568921, okay? Just round it up, okay? Same thing here. If I look at this particular cell that I've selected, up in the formula bar it says 0.5 because we have decimals and we also have fractions. Different ways that we can go ahead. Is this 0.5 or is this 1/2? Same thing. Okay. Now, that gets into a little bit of math and everything like that. But again, it does fall into the idea of the display versus the raw data. This is a big one that always gets me in Excel, right? Preceding zeros, right? You type in 00, whatever. Oh, I should type it right here. I'll type in 0012. It does not keep the zeros. Why? That's just Excel. You can't do it. Okay, well, you can if you start changing the number formats of those cells. So kind of get the idea here. How do I know what number format is applied to that particular cell? And each cell is different. This area right up here, we're on the home tab of the ribbon, and this area in the group's called number, and you look right where that dropped down. That's going to tell you what type of number format you have on this right now. And by default, like if I started a file new, if I just went to file new and here's a brand new blank workbook, all of these cells are going to be general. General is the default number format for Excel. Okay, let's go ahead and switch back over to our other file. But if you start clicking on this particular cell, then look up there. It says date. If I click on this one, it's accounting. I'm just going to use my down arrow. This is accounting somehow. I'll check back that one in a minute. But notice this one says that this is a number. And we keep on going. There's a fraction, and this is text. Text versus numbers is a big difference because when you start formatting your cells as text, then you can do things like keep the preceding zeros. Okay? Big thing that I always do.
Preceding zeros of a whole number, that don't actually add any information. They're not significant. It will keep post-decimal numbers or even numbers on the right-hand side because those have different meanings in our number systems. So preceding zeros, 00342, if that is actually a number and not just a physical representation. If I had 342 marbles in my hand, even if I said, oh, there's 2 zeros in front of that number, guess what? It doesn't change the fact that I have 342 marbles in my hand. So it is strictly for formatting purposes. It is for a visual aid or a visual kind of cue a lot of times to help make sure things line up in columns and things of that nature.
Or what if you're doing zip codes? Okay, or you're doing item numbers that always you have 5 numbers in your item code, and some of them start with 0025, or 00025. Gotta add those up. So those are things you need to look for, and you need to know and understand what am I storing? Why am I using Excel to store this data? And how do I need to make sure that it is displayed properly and stored properly with the information that I need? And so you can see this is formatted as a percentage. This is formatted as text. That's a big one. This one over here, what's with those E's? That's scientific notation. Okay, more on that. Again, we're going to go through and explain all of these number formats and show examples and how to do it. This is just, again, for you to understand, what do I need to know? I need to know that every cell can be formatted differently. Underlying or raw data is sometimes different than how it's displayed. This is the place that I need to look at for what type of number formatting that I'm going to get. And that drop down, so let's just click on a blank cell. I could format this, I can drop this down. There are some ones that they have just ready to go, the currency accounting, but just like with anything, hey, I need to have some other options while you go to the more number formats. And the more number formats, this is just taking us to a place we've already gone before, some other places and other episodes. This is the Format Cells dialog box, right? This is the place where we went to for the borders and the fill. We did like the gradient fills and things like that. So this dialog box has been around forever. Remember, I call it the old school button sometimes. So if I get into the number format, there are all these categories, and then I have options within each one of these categories. So I can come in here to fractions, and I have different ways, like how many pieces of the pie do I want to go out to, and how I'm going to be formatting our fractions, or how do I want my dates to look like? Oh gosh, there's so many different ways to do dates. And currency versus accounting versus numbers versus decimal places, all of that kind of stuff. So you need to go ahead and know that there's more options in the Format Cells dialog box, which you can get to from that dropdown. You can also right-click on a cell and go to Format Cells. That's down there in your menu. And I believe it's Control-1 is the keyboard shortcut to get to that, but a whole bunch of different ways to get to the same place. And then also formatting after the fact or formatting before the fact. That makes a big difference. And this is one, like, that I have colorized these cells to indicate that this particular cell is formatted as a fraction. But if you weren't paying attention and you go ahead and type in, like, 12.583, and you go, what? I don't know why it did that. Or, for example, here I type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I get it's Wednesday, 1933, October 18th, that is, of 1933. I have no idea why it's doing that, because it's formatted that way, because it was pre-formatted before you entered in information. Or you could take something like this number right here and then go ahead and change it into, let's change it into dollars. This is 71 cents. That's one way that you can write it. Okay, so then you go ahead and input the information, format it after the fact, or format it before. It does make a difference sometimes. Okay, and as we go through them, I'll demonstrate that. Other things to know about with this general format. I'm just going to come up to here. General has some things that can get a little weird, and this always makes me a little upset sometimes. It's like, for example, the way that we do our numbering of our episodes. Like if I typed in, 3-1-01, we don't exactly number it that way, but say I do number things that way, it's like, well, no, I don't want it to be March 1st, 2001. I don't want that. Or 2/2/2. Okay, that's not February 2nd, 2002. That's just what happens when you type in numbers in a certain pattern into the cells in Excel, and it's just going to automatically help you. And sometimes it's not always helpful, is it, Justin?
Yeah, there are times, Excel for, right? So slashes in the United States, well, that might be a date, right? And it's going to make some assumptions for you. Dashes, that might also be a date. And I'm not going to steal your thunder, Vaughn. I know you're going to show us some other things, but we do need to be aware if you're using a pattern of text and you have general, it may kind of go, oh, you actually meant for this to be something else. So just keep that in mind. Take a deep breath and just, just remember, we can change them and it'll be okay.
Yeah, and knowing is half the battle. You know, it's just like, I don't understand. Now you got a preview and an introduction of like, yes, this is going to happen. This is a big one for me because I used to work at a university, and with universities and courses, you know about this, Justin, section numbers, right? And there are some combinations of letters and numbers, and it would always happen every semester that we would have a section of 3E24. That was the section for whatever course I was scheduling. And then it does this. Like, no, I don't want to do that. Because the E is representing as exponent in Excel. So I was like, I can't. And there's no way, I mean, I could try to change it back, but this is that whole before or after of your formatting. I couldn't format that back. So if I was storing sections in, let's say, column I would need to make sure that I formatted that whole column a lot of times to be text before I type anything in, so it would stop going ahead and doing the scientific notation. Okay, and yes, trying to be helpful. I love when programs are helpful until it doesn't help me, and then it makes me mad. And I pulled up a couple websites that are in the episode notes that I just wanted to kind of throw this out there. It's like, you want to stop automatically changing numbers to dates. We said that. And even though this applies to Excel 2003, it doesn't really matter what version, it's just Excel in general. But I thought, I was like, oh, okay, da-da-da-da. All right, unfortunately, and I'll highlight this and read it to you, unfortunately, there is no way to turn this off, but there is a way to get around it. Oh, okay. It says you need to make sure that you format it as text. Okay, so it's not going to stop. You can't, it's not like a checkbox in your preferences. Doesn't let you do that. And then there's some other things down here of where it's like, oh, well, if you type in an apostrophe before you type it in, you're using an apostrophe instead of a space, or you could type a space before you type in a number. I don't know about you. I'm not going to, one, remember it, and two, it's just more things that I have to remember to do, and I just want to type in the numbers. That's all I want to do. So that's something that I personally just don't want to go through.
And, you know, I'm going to give a different recommendation. If you come from different backgrounds, the apostrophe is sometimes used to mean literal syntax. Like, I literally want this thing. If you're going to adopt either one of those conventions, I would do the apostrophe. I think it actually recommends you do the apostrophe internal to the documentation. Here's why. Hidden leading spaces, if they're not trimmed, I can't tell you how many times a hidden space character has caused me to like pull my hair out and just go, I don't know, this should have taken 20 minutes and this is 4.5 hours later and I don't know what's going on. And then you find out there's a beginning space or there's two beginning spaces, crazy shenanigans like that. I like the apostrophe because it's more explicit. However, that's still typing, that's still room for error. Be very careful about that. It's probably just better to pre-format the text to text and just let it be.
Definitely. And the mentioning of the space, like we have a whole series on mail merge, and that will drive you crazy. And you also mentioned something else that I'd like to just kind of highlight, because you made some really good points. You said something about trim, that there is a function in Excel called trim where it will actually remove the hidden white spaces that will drive you completely crazy. So those are definitely things that, one, we will talk about in the mail merge series and in the function series where that particular thing is. And yeah, it's because it is hidden. You don't really see it.
Yeah, it's still a character. And here's the trick about trim is helpful. I've done that. I've programmatically done it. I've done it in Excel and some other languages. But you have to remember to do it. If you don't remember how to, you're like, oh, it's fine. Everything's good. If you forget, now you're back to that 4-hour extravaganza going, I don't know why you don't work. So I would probably just pre-format, leave it be. That way you have an explicit reminder at the top in the number format part of your toolbar or the ribbon that you can quickly glance at and go, oh, got it.
Exactly. And I wasn't realizing that. I was just showing that my virtual machine just came back up, but that's okay. The other one that we talked about, yes, great point, that disabling scientific notation. Yeah, guess what? This is a built-in behavior. You can't control it. Okay? You're just going to have to, again, pre-format your cells. I know I'm going to need to have the letter E in some combinations of numbers and letters for things like section numbers, part numbers, any of those things. Format your cells as text, and you'll be good to go. So, and we will show you how to do all of that in our upcoming episodes. One last thing that I'd like to just throw out here, that another one that drives people crazy, is this whole idea about clearing your contents versus clearing your formats or clearing all, okay? I think we've talked about this, but I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it anyways. So if somebody comes along and then like selects this information and then just hits the delete key or the backspace key on the keyboard, sorry, I forgot I'm in a virtual machine. So let's just go ahead and do function delete. There we go. Okay, I went ahead and deleted that information out of there. Now I have the borders on there, so that's one indication that just hitting the delete key on the keyboard does not delete the formatting. So if I came in here, not talking, okay, that's great. Or let's actually do this. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. You come here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, that's not the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not the same thing. It's just something that you need to be aware of, is that we're not just talking about, fonts and colors. It's the number formats too. So if you really wanted to get everything gone, you would have to make sure that you clear, this is on the home tab, on the clear button, you're going to need to clear all. Get rid of everything. That will remove the contents and the formats. So you don't have any lingering date formats, and that's why your numbers are coming up in these weird, 1930s display and things like that. So just be very careful about that, and knowing that. And then sometimes you just want to delete the formats. Keep everything. If I clear the formats, okay, then there's my numbers. Okay, so two separate things: contents, formats, and then of course get them all. And then that will take away all the lingering things within the cell, because that is what you're doing. You're formatting your cells. You're formatting your numbers. So that is everything that I wanted to talk about for our introduction. In the next one, sorry, I'm stealing a little bit of your thunder being the host, but we're going to go ahead and move on to just some of our regular number formats and talk all about decimals and fractions. And like I said, I'm glad you're here with me, Justin, because I need your math help.
Well, Vaughn, I'm pretty excited about providing a little bit of math assistance, because sometimes I'm not that great of an assistant when it comes to Excel. And even though we call them regular or common formats in Excel, you may not be aware of them, so you should be coming on back as we continue in our Excel 2016 Essentials series. But for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So signing off for Office Pro TV, I've been your host, Justin Nelson.
And I'm Vaughn Smith.
And we'll see you next time.